Welcome to this Tutor to You A-Level Sociology Revision Blast for AQA A-Level Sociology. In this video we're going to look at work, poverty and welfare and focus on the organisation of work and worklessness. So in this revision blast we're going to look at the last two specification points on the AQA A-Level specification for work, poverty and welfare. That is the organisation and control of the labour process, including the division of labour, the role of technology, skill and de-skilling. We're also going to look at the significance of work and worklessness for people's lives and life chances, including the effects of globalization. And we're going to touch on these through 5 activities in this revision blast. Our first activity is a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 activity. We want you to identify 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 sociologists who researched work, 4 key terms associated with work, 3 impacts of technology on work, 2 theories of the organisation of work, and 1 impact of worklessness. You have 2 minutes starting now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And time is up. I'm going to show you my answers. There are additional answers that you could have put, but we've looked at 5 sociologists who've researched work. Well, we've gone with Harry Braverman, the Marxists, Abercrombie, Marx, Durkheim and Froebel. 4 key terms associated with work. We've looked at the division of labour, obviously Durkheim, alienation and Marx, de-skilling, Braverman and automation. 3 impacts of technology on work. Again, we've gone with automation, but we've also gone with McDonaldization and Disneyization. 2 theories of the organisation of work. Well, there's Durkheim's division of labour and scientific management. And 1 impact of worklessness is an increased likelihood of illness, either mental or physical illness increases as a result of worklessness. In our next activity, we're going to do a 60-second challenge. We want you to match the key term to the correct definition, matching the letters on the left with the numbers on the right. So our key terms are alienation, de-skilling, upskilling, McDonaldization and Disneyization. And our definitions down the right hand side of the screen are standardized processes used in employment which enable it to be performed anywhere, the learning of new skills in order to perform new tasks, skilled work is no longer required due to automation, lack of power and control over the process of how work is performed is our fourth definition. And our final definition, the process of applying elements of consumption, merchandising and emotional labour to a task. You have 60 seconds starting now. And our 60 seconds is up. Let's have a look at the answers. So alienation is described as being the lack of power and control over the process of how work is performed, obviously linked into the ideas of Karl Marx. Deskilling, which is where skilled work is no longer required due to automation. Individuals do not have to perform to a higher level of skill. It means that they may be paid lower wages and they may also be replaced by less skilled workers. Upskilling is the learning of new skills in order to perform new tasks, which is seen as being a feature of automation. When companies start to use automated tasks, it gives them the opportunity to upskill their labour force. McDonaldization, concept associated with George Ritzer, is where the standardized process used in employment enable it to be performed anywhere, such as the process that is used in the fast food chain McDonald's. And Disneyization. This is a concept that is associated with Alan Bryman, and this suggests that there is a process of applying elements of consumption, merchandising and emotional labour to a task, much in the ways you may find in a Disney theme park, where individuals who are working for Disney are expected to take on a happy role, and everybody is seen as being a guest or a visitor rather than a customer. And there are many opportunities for people to purchase the goods and services that are around them within Disney parks. In our connection spinner, we're going to look at a couple of impacts of globalization. We're going to spin the spinner a couple of times and it's going to land on one of 6 key kind of factors. So the impacts of globalization on solutions to poverty, employment, poverty itself, organization of work, wealth and life chances. So we can see on the 10 mark outline and explain questions, often what you have to do is apply your knowledge of one area of the specification to another. Globalization is a big factor that impacts on work and poverty, and it's also one of those specification points that can be applied to a number of different other specification points. We're going to spin the spinner and see where it lands. Okay, so the impacts of globalization, and look at that on the organisation of work. There are 2 different spec points, the organisation of work and then globalization and the impact of worklessness later on. So we can look and think, what are some of the impacts of globalization on the way work is organised? As with any of the activities in this revision blast, you can pause if you need extra time. We'll reveal our answer in a moment. Well, the answer we came up with here is increased use of technology to control workers, and this comes from Shoshana Zuboff. The growth of technology is a feature of globalization, and the increased use of technology to monitor workers. So for example, in Amazon warehouses, where workers are monitored in a number of ways, based on what breaks they take, how much time they take to pick an item, how many items they're picking over a certain period of time. The use of technology enables supervisors and managers to monitor workers. Let's look at a second connection. So again, we have our 6 factors on the outside, and we're looking for the impact of globalization on employment. So the organisation of work and the way in which people were monitored was our first factor. Now we're looking for the ways in which globalisation has impacted on employment. So on the types of jobs that people do, how might globalisation have impacted on employment? If we look at the response that we gave, well, it leads to changes to the workplace. For example, creation of gig economies. We can see that the impacts of globalization with large corporations taking over, it leads to more precarious work, what is often referred to as the secondary labour market, where individuals might be freelance or on a 0-hour contract, or individuals might work for a short period of time, what's called the gig economy, and this is an impact of globalization. The growth of technology. So if we think about apps such as Uber, Uber Eats, Just Eat, the way in which we can order food online and somebody will come and deliver it, and they do a specific job for a specific period of time, and they're paid per job that they do rather than given an hourly rate. And this has been possible because of the impacts of globalization, for example, the increase in use of technology. In our bubble quiz, we are going to ask you a number of questions, and the number of answers that are correct can range from 0 to all 4. So you need to jot down which of the answers you think are correct. It can be 0, 1, 2, 3 or 4. In this one we're looking at work and worklessness. So which of the following are impacts of work on individuals? A, it gives them a social identity. B, improved life chances. C, alienation. Or D, crime. So write down which answers you think are correct. And the answers are A, B and C. Giddens suggests that work gives individuals a social identity. It gives them a sense of purpose, of who they are. Of course, work leads to improved life chances, better educational opportunities, better health, better prospects of social mobility. And Marx looks at the concept of alienation, as do others, and suggests that work can lead to individuals feeling alienated from their true purpose. Question number 2. Which of the following are impacts of worklessness? Low self-esteem, exploitation, poverty, and isolation. Which of those 4 are impacts of worklessness? And the correct answers are A, C and D. Worklessness can lead to low self-esteem. Quite obviously it can lead to poverty, as individuals don't have the resources to be able to afford to buy things, and it can lead to social isolation. Individuals may not have the interactions that they would have if they are not in a workplace. Question number 3. Which of the following do you associate with scientific management? Taylor, Mayo, Braverman, or Ford? Which of those would we associate with scientific management? Now, of course, this is not just the theory of scientific management, but techniques that are used in scientific management. And the correct answer is A, B, and D. Taylor, of course, came up with the concept of scientific management. Mayo conducted experiments and found many of the findings of scientific management were correct. And D, Ford, adopted methods of scientific management in what we see as being called Fordism, but in the Ford car plant. Question number 4. Which of the following are possible consequences of automation? A, management control. B, alienation. C, de-skilling. D, upskilling. And the correct answers are B, C, and D. Increased alienation is a possible consequence of automation, as individuals no longer require the level of skill that they did to produce the goods and services they were involved in. Also, they have less autonomy over what they do. De-skilling could potentially be an impact of automation where individuals are no longer required to do skilled tasks. And upskilling, because they're no longer required to do certain tasks that are performed by machines, it might mean opportunities for them to actually improve their skill set and move on to higher jobs. And question number 5. Which of the following sociologists studied impacts of globalization on work? Ritzer, Froebel, Klein, or Durkheim? And the correct answers are Ritzer, Froebel, and Klein. Ritzer looked at the concept of McDonaldization, Froebel looked at the new international division of labour, and Klein looked at the role and expansion of global TNCs and how they had created McJobs. For our final activity, we're going to do a chili quiz. You'll have 30 seconds to answer 3 questions, and each question has a different level of difficulty rated by our chili rankings below. The green question is mild, the orange question is spicy, and the red question is hot. Let's look at our 3 questions. So a mild question: which sociologist described the concept of exploitation of workers? Which sociologist do you associate with the de-skilling thesis, and which sociologist suggested that technology is used to monitor workers? In our chili quiz, you have 30 seconds to come up with the answers to those 3. And time is up. So, how did you do? The answers are: which sociologist described the concept of exploitation of workers? That was Karl Marx. Which sociologist do you associate with the de-skilling thesis? That is Harry Braverman. And which sociologist suggested that technology is used to monitor workers? We actually mentioned this earlier in Revision Blast. That was Shoshana Zuboff. That concludes this Tutor to You AQA A-Level Sociology Revision Blast on work, poverty and welfare, looking at the organisation of work and worklessness. Thanks for watching.